And we want to be able to diversify our partners. And that's where Sweden comes in.
Tonight, a high-flying overture from a European ally to bolster Canada's Air Force.
Sweden's defense giant Saab has made a bold offer to Canada, one that could reshape the country's military future and its relationship with Washington. Saab is pushing for Canada not just to buy its Gripen fighter jets, but to build them domestically, promising thousands of high-skilled aerospace jobs and unprecedented control over production, upgrades, and maintenance. What appears at first glance to be a procurement decision has quietly turned into a geopolitical fault line. Before we go deeper, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you want more clear, in-depth breakdowns of the global decisions shaping power, money, and security today. For decades, Canada's defense posture has been defined by predictability. As a NATO ally, Ottawa has typically aligned closely with the United States, especially when it comes to military hardware. That history is precisely why the current debate is so striking. It challenges assumptions that have gone largely unquestioned since the Cold War. The roots of this controversy stretch back to 2010, when Canada announced plans to acquire 65 F-35 fighter jets through a direct purchase, skipping an open competition. At the time, the decision was framed as a straightforward modernization of the Royal Canadian Air Force. That framing did not hold. Analysts questioned whether the aircraft matched Canada's actual defense needs, economists flagged rising cost projections, and the public demanded transparency that never fully materialized. What began as a technical procurement quickly turned political. By 2014, pressure mounted to the point that parliamentary committees reopened the entire file. Cost estimates were dissected, assumptions challenged, and the original plan effectively collapsed. While the F-35 never left the table entirely, the belief that Canada would simply follow Washington's lead began to weaken. After years of revisions and reassessments, Ottawa appeared to settle the matter in 2023 by officially selecting the F-35A. An order for 88 aircraft was announced, with deliveries planned to begin in 2026 and full operational capability projected for 2032. For many observers, the debate seemed over. That sense of finality did not last. In June 2025, Canada's Auditor General released a report that fundamentally altered the conversation. The original cost estimate of 19 billion Canadian dollars had surged to 27.7 billion, with the possibility of reaching 33 billion once infrastructure upgrades, weapons integration, sustainment, and long-term operating costs were fully accounted for. This was not a marginal increase. It represented a jump of roughly 75%, a figure too large to dismiss as routine inflation or accounting noise. For a country tasked with defending vast territory across 3 oceans, those numbers forced hard questions. At the same time, relations with the United States were becoming more strained. Donald Trump, serving a second presidential term, announced plans for sweeping tariffs on Canadian goods and made remarks suggesting Canada could one day become the 51st state. Even when dismissed as rhetoric, the implications were clear. Economic pressure and political leverage were openly on the table. Against this backdrop, Canada made a move few in Washington expected. In August 2025, Ottawa signed a new defense and aerospace cooperation agreement with Sweden, focused on Arctic security. The Arctic, with its harsh conditions and growing strategic importance, demands specialized capabilities and sustained presence. Sweden, with its long experience operating in cold environments, was a natural partner. Saab moved quickly to expand the scope of the relationship. Its proposal went far beyond selling jets. The Gripen E would be assembled entirely in Canada. Technology transfer would be extensive. Control over maintenance, upgrades, and future modifications would remain in Canadian hands. The projected economic impact included more than 12,000 aerospace jobs, tied not only to the Gripen program, but also to advanced surveillance platforms like the Global Eye system. At that point, the issue stopped being just about aircraft performance. It became a question of national direction. Bombardier emerged as a central industrial partner, raising the prospect of revitalizing Canada's domestic aerospace sector. Supporters argued this was a chance to reduce long-term dependence, strengthen sovereignty, and keep critical defense capabilities anchored at home. In March 2025, the debate escalated further. Canada's defense minister announced that the government would formally re-examine the F-35 contract. The Gripen, which had competed in the 2021 process, was back in play. In Washington, the reaction was immediate. A deal once considered untouchable was suddenly uncertain. To understand why, three forces have to be considered together: economics, politics, and technology. Financially, the Auditor General's findings revealed that early cost estimates had excluded major obligations. Base infrastructure upgrades, specialized training systems, weapons compatibility, and decades of sustainment were not side issues. They were baked into the program. Once fully counted, the F-35 represented a rigid, long-term financial commitment with limited room for adjustment. Politically, the tariff threats and rhetoric underscored how quickly alliance dynamics can shift. Dependence on a dominant partner carries risk, especially when that partner controls access to critical systems. In this context, sovereignty becomes conditional, shaped by contracts and permissions rather than ownership alone. Technologically, the contrast was stark. The Gripen's appeal was not just its lower purchase price, but its operating cost. Estimates place its cost per flight hour near $8,000, compared to figures ranging from $35,000 to $47,000 for the F-35. The Gripen was designed for dispersed operations, capable of using short runways and even highways, a practical advantage in Canada's Arctic regions where infrastructure is sparse and weather unforgiving. More consequential was Saab's willingness to grant full control over the aircraft's systems. The F-35, by design, is deeply integrated into a centralized software and data ecosystem. Its effectiveness depends on continuous updates managed by the United States. With rare exceptions, operators do not have independent access to the source code. Without updates, performance does not fail mechanically. It slowly degrades technologically. This reality fueled public concern over control. While claims of a remote kill switch have been denied, the underlying issue remains. Control over software updates equals control over operational viability. If updates stop, aircraft effectiveness erodes, eventually grounding fleets without a single shot being fired. Opposition to reconsidering the F-35 has been forceful. In late 2025, a leaked technical evaluation from the earlier competition resurfaced. The F-35 scored near the top across categories, while the Gripen lagged significantly in mission effectiveness and upgrade potential. Senior military leaders argued that national defense requires technological superiority, not adequacy, warning that mixed fleets could complicate logistics, training, and combat operations. Critics responded with a simpler question: superiority for which mission? Canada's primary Air Force responsibilities focus on territorial defense, Arctic surveillance, and allied support, not sustained high-intensity conflict against peer adversaries. Within that context, the necessity of a stealth fighter program approaching $33 billion remains contested. Even the business community has voiced concern. With Canada committed to an initial set of F-35s and the rest of the fleet still undecided, the country faces one of the most consequential defense choices in its modern history. The outcome will shape not only the Royal Canadian Air Force, but Canada's place in a shifting global order. If you found this breakdown useful, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive into the power struggles shaping the world today.